Hey you guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm interviewing R.Weir, R.Weir, author of Mann in the Crossfire. He was on my show on the 80th episode of Writer Groupie. If you want to go back and check that out, I'll link it up for you. And if you would like, you can like this video, you can subscribe to the channel, and you can also click the bell notifications so that you get notice whenever I upload a new video. Looking forward to it. Let's get into it. Welcome to Writer Groupie again. It's nice to see you, Randy. I hope everything's going well for you.
It is. We're staying mostly dry in Colorado right now. We had a late snowstorm in May, which kind of really made for a mess for us and some other parts of the country. But it's gotten really dry lately, and 85 today. So
oh wow,
more like spring and summer type weather.
Yeah, we've had really strange weather here in Florida too. I'm just telling you, it was a very dry and cool spring, and then summer hit with a vengeance. We got up into the high 90s, and it was hot and dry, and all the grass died. And then starting this past week and weekend and this week, we've had steady rain every day. Everything's starting to grow again. All the animals are coming out. Yesterday on my morning walk, I saw 5 bunnies. So I'm like, well, okay, I guess it's, this is normal. This is my first year down here, so I don't know what's normal and what's not. So it was pretty interesting to just watch the deluge of rain. I'm like, holy cow. I mean, Mississippi had some rain, but that's unreal.
Well, you're probably used to the humidity being from Mississippi. So I grew up in the Midwest where the humidity was horrible. And I do not miss it because it's relatively dry in Colorado. It's pretty much semi-arid here. So, but yeah, I don't know how you deal with the heat and the humidity all the time. I know you probably stay inside in the air conditioning a lot, right?
You do, but you know what? Really and truly, I think you just get used to it. Like you said, being from Mississippi, humidity is nothing new to me. And just the opportunities to get out and do stuff because the weather's usually very nice. Right now we're in what they call the rainy season. But usually it's very nice, and you get an opportunity to go to the beach, and you can get out and do stuff. So it's very pleasant. Even with the humidity, you're generally going to get wet somewhere you go.
Yeah, man, I understand that. So it's like I said, I don't miss it. I like the drier air, and the winters here. Everyone thinks Colorado the winters are bad, but they really are not bad. I don't mind the snow. I actually kind of like the snow, other than when I got to shovel it. But it's a lot of it. But the winters here actually are not bad compared to where I grew up in Des Moines, Iowa, where the winters could be brutal at times.
Oh yeah. I have a friend who lives in Sioux City.
Yeah, very cold too. We get some cold snaps, but they don't last long. I mean, we get below zero occasionally, but in Iowa, it seemed to be a pretty regular, especially December and January.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen. Welcome to Writer Groupie Podcast. Again, it's good to see you. And we need to talk about your new book. Your book is called Mann in the Crossfire, and this is your latest Jarvis Mann PI Detective Series book. Which one is this? Is this number 7 or 10 or
8? Number 8.
Mann in the Crossfire.
And yes, this is the 8th in the series, and it may be the last in the series. I wrote it a little bit to possibly be the last, though I haven't completely decided yet. I'm going on to other things, but basically Jarvis Mann, my private detective, is on a major case. An associate who's been in the previous books has been murdered, and he goes off to Southern California dealing with that murder, trying to figure out what happened to the person that was killed, and of course runs into all kinds of craziness and deals with the horrible traffic of Southern California all the time. Does a lot of complaining about that out there. Doesn't mind the weather because it's late spring, cold and snowy. It can be still cold and snowy in Colorado, and he doesn't mind the weather, but he doesn't like the traffic at all. But he gets neck deep into some type of conspiracy and an organization that's doing some nefarious things, and of course puts his life and others in jeopardy as well.
Mm.
Plus, he's still dealing somewhat with the after effects of the Front Range Butcher, the book before that. And I
Mhm.
tell most people they really should read the Front Range Butcher before they read Man in the Crossfire. There's the major storyline that kind of carries over into Man in the Crossfire. Plus, there's some remnants from the Front Range Butcher dealing with the Butcher, who's now on trial. With no hints on who the Butcher is, but who's now, or not on trial, but he's in jail and still working his head games against Jarvis, and he's having some problems sleeping and stuff. They're dealing
Interesting.
with the maniac serial killer.
Mm.
And so a lot of that. So there's a lot going on. It's a pretty long book, so over 400 pages, which was the same with the Butcher, but a lot of twists and turns as always, and some people coming back from previous books, and a couple of big conclusions in the book to
Wow.
possibly wrap up the series. I'm still thinking I may do another book, but I wrote this one. Taking a break for a while, and I'm starting a new book with new characters that might be a new series with a little different feel to it outside the hard-boiled PI genre.
Now, tell us a little bit more about that. That's interesting. I mean, I just did an article. Well, actually, it was a redo on an article that I wrote for Writer Groupie Podcast on the website, and then I rewrote it for my Kim Smith author site. Asking the question, how do you know when it's time to quit on a book? You know, how do you know that this book is just not working for you? This book is not the book you meant to write. You know, and how do you know when it's time, in your case, maybe to change genres or change themes or change, you know, ideologies or change characters maybe? How do you know when it's time?
Well, like I said, I've done 8 books in the Jarvis Mann series, and I kind of felt like I had stretched it to the point where I wasn't sure if I was going to be kind of repeating myself, and you know, and just a lot of, you know, a little bit of repetition and stuff. But I think a lot of it is just stretching as an author, just trying to do different things. It's not a big change. In this case, it's not it's written in third person. The hard-boiled genre is generally first person, so you know it's through Jarvis's eyes. The new book is a third person, so you're going to see through everybody's eyes in effect.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a former U.S. Marshal who left under not necessarily the best circumstances, and he's now kind of a private consultant doing cases, and he's hired to help a former girlfriend from times past who's now married, you know, 20 some years later, 18 or so years later, I think it was. And someone's trying to kidnap her 2 children who are high school age. And his job is to try to prevent that and to figure out who's doing it, because they don't really know who's involved. And it's based down in Colorado Springs. So it's kind of a suspense thriller, maybe a little bit of action, you know, type of book, but written in third person. So a lot of different, you're seeing it from a lot of different angles, whereas, you know, the PI genre is usually just through his eyes, though I occasionally wrote, like we saw a little bit through the Butcher's eyes in the Front Range Butcher. So it's a challenge, and you know, I had this idea for a while, and strangely enough, it kind of came from the title of the book. I had the title and a kind of simple outline, and you know, it's kind of grown from there. But a lot of it is just stretching and trying a different genre. And I've had some alpha readers for this book, which is a little different than beta readers. Beta readers usually read after you've at least completed the first draft, or at least a couple of drafts, and then you're getting there. Alpha readers, you usually have them read while you're writing. So I've sent it to some alpha readers, and I've had pretty good response so far. I heard back from one yesterday who said she just loved what I'd written so far, and is really excited to read more as it goes on, because I'm maybe halfway through or so. Been a little bit harder book to write, being it's different. You know, I've got to get myself out of that Jarvis mindset. I'm not writing Jarvis, I'm writing a new character. So yeah, it's stretching and hopefully finding a new new course that hopefully will have some success.
I've been blocked for so long now on working on the novel that I've been working on for 3 years. I just have recently contacted a local writers group here about critiques because I'm thinking maybe I just need to have other eyes on this to tell me where the whole thing has just gone south, because apparently there's something wrong with it, or I could finish it. I have never in my life struggled with a book the way I've struggled with this one. Apparently there's something about the storyline, a subplot or a thread that is just, have you ever had a hair hanging in your eye and you can't find it? That's kind of what it feels like.
All the time. I'm always trying to get that doggone hair. It gets stuck in my glasses sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
The most annoying thing in the world, and you just cannot figure out where it is and how to get rid of it. But that's the problem I have with this book. And so to hear you say you got a group of alpha readers, that's really interesting. Is there a difference between alpha and beta? I mean, is alpha people that are writers also, or is beta just readers that like to read and they're not really critiquing? How do you designate the difference between an alpha and a beta reader?
Well, alpha usually is just in the process of the book. Usually alpha is before the book has really been written completely.
So they know ahead of time that it's not complete.
Yeah, and it can be authors, it can be readers. Like I've had a couple of people who've been beta readers of doing alpha, and I kind of tell them, I'm asking for early feedback. This is not a completed product. It's still very rough. I want to make sure I'm on the right track. Is it confusing? Especially since this was a different style of book for me. I wanted to make sure that I was going, it wasn't a mess, so to speak. Because there's some flashbacks, and it's coming from different angles, so you're reading it from not only the U.S. Marshal, his name is Hunter Devine, and so you're going to see it from the bad guys' points of views, from the family's point of view. So there's a lot of different angles written. So yes, alpha readers are basically where the process of the book it's an early process, and I would certainly suggest finding those, and you can find people that you trust and to give you good, honest opinions. You don't want people to be, oh yes, this is great, and then maybe it isn't. They need to be honest with you and tell you, well, you're definitely off the rails at this point, or this is a good start, but maybe you need to twist. And sometimes they give you good suggestions as well to where to take you to that next step if you're stuck.
Yeah, and I've done critique groups all forever. I have. And I've run the gamut with my critiquers. I've had those who are just like, everything is just beautiful and they're no help at all. And then I've had those who are so brutal, they make you want to quit writing. And I guess I just, eventually I just sit down and start writing. I listen to what they say, I take it all in, and then I'm like, okay, you can get critiqued to death, but if you don't sit your butt in that chair and get them fingers on that keyboard, ain't nothing ever coming out.
Yeah.
So, but I just find
that brutal comments sometimes you have to try to take it. Hopefully they throw in some good. I mean, if it's all brutal, then you kind of go, well. Some people want to rewrite the story for you, and well, it's your story, so you need to write it. So yeah, you got to weigh all that, and hopefully they're able to get you to the next level. To get that right type of feedback. So yeah, you don't want yes people, but you don't want it to be 100% negative either, because then you're right. You just kind of,
well, and sometimes I mean it has actually stopped me from finishing a book. It has made me think so hard about the book that I've come to the realization that, well, maybe this book is not worth my time. Why should I continue if it's not going to satisfy a reader? So, critique groups really do play an important role for some writers, and then some of us, and I put myself in the second group, it's a case of storytelling. Sometimes you just have to tell the story. That's why I don't generally like to do critiques, especially until I'm finished, because you got to tell that story first. If you don't get the story out, and then you have people critiquing you left and right, then you have trouble finishing the story, or at least I have to speak, from my own perspective. But recently you went to a writer's con, and that sounded so exciting. Tell us about that and how it went for you.
Yeah, the Wild Deadwood Reads is what it was. It was an author event, and it's really more than an author event. It's, usually you go to author events as a one day. You sell books, people come, you sell books, sign books, get to meet readers and read other authors authors. But this was in Deadwood, South Dakota, which is a gorgeous place. I live in Colorado, and it's very Colorado-ish. A lot of lodgepole pines and very outdoors. There's deer everywhere. I mean, you got to be careful you don't run into deer
Oh
because
yeah.
they're just running on in the middle of the road. I mean, they actually sit in the. We were driving home. They're just sitting there right in the middle of the highway,
Oh
state
wow.
highway, finding something to eat on the side of the road, and you have to sit there and get them to move. Slow down, and so you're not running into them and all that. But yeah, Deadwood is a great old town. It's a gambling town now. So,
Oh
but it
my.
has a lot of history. Wild Bill Hickok was killed there, and Calamity Jane died there. So there's a lot of Western history there. And the event is great. It's run by some ladies, Ginger Ring and Linda Ray Sand and Randy Alexander have run it. And it's been going on for 3 years.
Wow, that's great. It's
And
fairly new.
yeah, it's fairly new. The first year it was really small. It was down in a different hotel, down in the basement of the hotel. It was really small, very claustrophobic. And they moved to the Deadwood Grand, which is right on the edge of Deadwood. Much nicer facility, big area for the authors, a lot of room. And but they do like a meet and greet the Thursday before, where we go to the bar there in the hotel, and authors come, readers come. You get to talk and interact with people, get to see people you maybe know, make new friends, new contacts, and new readers. Just fun. And then the Friday before, they usually do a bus tour to see some of the sights of the area, like they went to Mount Rushmore and oh geez, where else did they go? I didn't take the bus tour this year because I usually do this as a family vacation as well. So we did family stuff. My in-laws went with us, and we have a motorhome. They have a motorhome, so we stayed in a campground outside of Deadwood. But they went to Mount Rushmore. Oh, they went to Bear Country, which is kind of a cool park where you drive through and there's wild bears running loose all over. And then the Saturday there's a breakfast with the authors. Readers can come and have breakfast with the authors and sit down before the event. And then they have the author signing for like 5 hours where you sell books and meet people, and and people sign up for your newsletters, and I got a lot of signups. And then they go to the rodeo after the event. There's a rodeo there in town. They have a rodeo every year. And they went to the rodeo, though the weather was horrible. It was sleeting, and it was like 40 degrees that day, so very cold. It had
Oh
been
my.
80 the 2 days before. But that's life in the mountains because it's about
Yeah.
6,000 feet there, so it's fairly high. And then they have an author reading where we get to get up. Authors can get up and sit up in front of readers and other authors and read an excerpt from one of your books. And I read an excerpt from Mann and the Crossfire, which was fun. Get to read from my book and face your fears of reading in front of other
Right.
people as well. Which can be a little nerve-wracking. But it went well, and I got some good reactions from everybody, and it was fun. So
That's
it's really fun. It's
fabulous.
really a fun event to do, and they're going to do it again next year. It'll be the 4th year of it. I haven't decided if I'm going to go yet. I will if it works out well. It may conflict with a Denver pop culture con that's here that I want to do next year, which is really big. But I think there's enough of a gap between the two because it goes for 3 days as well, and
Oh wow.
3
Yeah.
days non-stop. And fun, but it's a great event, and for any authors out there, I would certainly check it out and look at it. The tables are reasonable, and you can get a vacation out of it too. So
Can't
ride
beat
off.
that with a
It's
stick.
work, but you write it off. It's vacation. Right?
You think
Ride
like I
off the
think.
works while having a vacation at the same time.
Well, I got to ask you, because I've been to cons, I've been on panels, I've read from my book, I've sold books, I've done all that. And I just want to ask you how it makes you feel as a writer to attend an event like that and to be put kind of up on a pedestal a little bit.
That doesn't bother me too much. I mean, you like it. Obviously, you want people to read your books and enjoy them and stuff. And that, to me, that's the biggest thing is when you get someone that comes up and said, "I bought your books last year. I really liked it. I want to buy more this year." Those are the things that I really enjoy and hear and get to interact with them. That's the fun part. I had one reader. Her mother went to the event last year, and her mother bought all the books I had at the time, which was 5. And she bought them all for her daughter because she liked that type of genre. And she gave them to her daughter, and she started posting reviews on Goodreads. And I didn't know who the daughter was. I didn't know who it was at the time. And I always try to leave a little note for anyone who leaves a review on Goodreads. I put a little note, thanks for doing this. And, you know, some authors say you should never react to reviews, but I just like to say thank you. Even bad reviews, I say thanks for taking the time. I'm sorry you didn't like the book, but thanks for taking the time. I hope you'll maybe try another one. If not, you know, no big deal, but I appreciate them taking the time. So I had done that for her, and I didn't know her name. Her name was Carmen, and I didn't know who it was at the time. And she called her mother, who I'm friends with on Facebook, and was just blown away. She says, oh, wow, an author actually reached out to me and said, thank you. And
Oh, my.
She was just so taken. And her mother sent me an instant message through Facebook and said, you just made my daughter's day. The author actually said, thanks for that. So, you know, those type of things, you know, you enjoy, and you like that. And that interaction, and I heard that from a lot of readers there. It's like, well, I got to actually meet an author I enjoyed. It didn't necessarily have to be me. There were 50 other authors there. A lot of romance authors, and a lot of romance authors have a lot of fans.
They do.
And they're like, wow, I actually got to meet her and take a picture with her and all that. And they think that's great. And that's the fun part of it. And then obviously interacting with other authors too, because some authors, you know, you shared experiences, that struggle that you go through with marketing and everything else. And you know, what do you need to do to sell more books? And you kind of see other people there, and you see their swag as well, you know, because authors always have swag at these events.
Oh, yeah.
I've always tried to come up with different ideas for swag, and we were pretty successful. We gave away most of the swag we had.
That's good.
It was a lot of fun, and I sold, like I said, I did better this year than I did last year, and I did better than the year before. And you know,
you're developing a following. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, and I've had people ask me, says, well, if I buy one of your books, are you going to be back next year? Because I may want to buy more. And I'm like, well, you know, I probably will be back, but you know, you just never know your schedule. You always have to do these things 6 months, 9 months in advance.
Yeah.
Because they fill up so fast sometimes, and I've never had an issue.
It can be pricey if they're not local to you. If they're not within like an 8-hour drive of you, it can be very pricey for you to have to go, because now you've got to include your hotel stay and your transportation and all those extraneous things, not to mention food. Especially if you stay in the hotel of the con, the food can be very pricey. And I mean, those things are things that you have to plan out, especially if you're making it a family time also. You know, it's got to be conducive to everybody else's schedule and the budget, you know, basically. So I definitely understand.
Yeah, some of these events are really expensive to go to. Like, you know, there's like Killer Nashville. It's $700 or $800 to go to that, and they only have a very short day of book sales there. Other events like this one, I think it was $100 for a table, so it was pretty reasonable. But others run $200-300, and yes, travel. So that's why I try to do a lot of local stuff, and then I pick some things outside. I mean, I'd love to do something every week.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know, you have to sell a lot of books to pay for that hotel, or even taking a motorhome and all that.
That's
true.
true.
You have to sell, you know, 50 to 100 books. So you try to find those that you can maximize. And yeah, if I can get a vacation out of it as well, then, you know, because as a writer, you can write a lot of this stuff off. But we all know how that goes. You're writing it off. That doesn't mean you get it all back. You get a percentage.
True. That's very true.
Yeah. So, you know.
And it's an unknown factor, because sometimes you'll go to a con that you think is going to be really well received, and the weather will turn nasty, and then nobody comes. And so you've placed your bet, and, you know, you got ran out. You got wiped off the table, basically.
Right, and then for me, being a mystery writer, I have to try to weigh the ones too, because romance is usually very heavily big in most of these book events. So most of the authors there. So you got to make sure there's people coming to look for your type of book as well. Like there was me, one other main focal mystery writer there, and I think she said she told me she sold like 5 books. So she didn't do really well at that, whereas I'd been there for 3 years, so I had a little bit of an established base. But the romance offers, like the lady who was right behind me, she was selling books like crazy. I mean, there were some that were selling out of their books. So, yeah, you've got to try to make sure you've got an audience there that wants your books as well. So that's why I do a lot of craft fairs in town and other books, holiday fairs, go to libraries, things like that, where you're getting a little more variety. And then I
Yeah,
pick and choose.
libraries can really be your fail-safe. Our library, when I lived in Mississippi, was so supportive of us, and they would let us hold author events, and it was just really beneficial to try and develop a following of readers local to you, because you got to start out in that little local area, and then you go outward from there, building your readership. And so that was very helpful. I would recommend to anybody out there who's trying to get their book out, start with your smallest area first. Try your local library and work with your local people first, and then move out. Maybe go out to a con 2 or 3 or 4 hours away, and then maybe a 6 or 8 hour. And the next one, once you've gotten a feel for how it works and you can afford the event and the travel, then, go a little bit further. But yeah, it's not like the old days when you had a publishing contract with a big name publisher and they sent you on a book tour and they paid all your expenses and you were in different cities every other day. It's not the same.
No, it's not. And the local libraries are great because usually it doesn't cost you anything other than time. And they'll usually promote it pretty heavily. I did one in Highlands Ranch Library, which is south of where I live. And then I'm going to Castle Rock, which is in August, right before I do the Colorado Springs Comic-Con, which I'm looking forward to. But yes, the libraries are great. And if they promote it well, you usually get a lot of people coming in, and you got people who says, wow, I did a small library in Elizabeth, which is a little small town south of Parker here, it's really more of a farm town and everything. And people coming in and they're like, wow, I had no idea, there are local authors that are nearby and writing the stories, and the events I write in my books are mostly based in the Denver metro area, so it covers and a lot of times the Front Range too. And that really, like, wow, I didn't know there were any books that were in this area, and there'd be sites and places and restaurants that we go to that might be in the book, and they thought that was really cool. And they bought, I think I sold 10 or 12 books at that library from 2 groups of people for 2 hours of my time. So it was worthwhile. So yeah, definitely the libraries, you can find them that they support you. And then when you get in there, a lot of times they'll bring your books into the library as well for people to check out. So that's the other nice thing as well. At least maybe 1 or 2 of them. Like in my case, it's a series, so they'll usually get maybe the first 2.
Yeah, our library had a local author shelf, just a whole bookshelf of local authors. And so if you had enough books, you could probably have your own shelf. I'm talking about a whole, what a library bookshelf looks like. It's massive. Yep. And so that was really cool. We felt very honored that they were able to do that and willing to do that for us. Yep. Well, our time is about to get to the end here, Randy. I wanted to ask you, what great, new, and different thing have you learned as a writer since the last time I saw you that you'd be willing to share?
Oh, wow. What have I learned since the last time? I was trying to remember what I had mentioned the last time. Oh, I think I had mentioned about how difficult it was to don't be a writer to make money, I think is what I had said the last time. I think the biggest thing is just getting out and touching and talking to as many people as possible, whether it's readers or writers. Try to make those connections. I know it's tough for me. I'm a great one-on-one guy. I'm not great in crowds of people, so I have a tendency to a little bit more. But I'm trying to break down some of those barriers. But readers and other writers, and listen and try to learn as much as you can from people, and hopefully learn from their mistakes. But try to reach it, whether it's social media or doing author events, libraries, craft fairs. I mean, craft fairs usually are relatively inexpensive, though they're starting to get more expensive around here, getting very popular, especially at the holidays. But just get out and meet people. And of course, you got to balance that with the time to write as well. So
That's true.
that balancing
I'm
act
telling you,
is tough.
that's the most difficult part, is trying to find the time to do it all. Sometimes we feel like we just can't get it all done in a day. As a social media marketer and writer and a YouTuber and a podcaster and all the stuff that I do, trust me, I feel you on that one.
Yeah, I'd love to pay somebody to do it all for me, but it gets expensive, and
Yeah, you only
so
make
you try
pennies
to
per
do it
buck.
yourself as much as you can, but
That's right.
it's tough.
So what's coming now? Your new book, your new idea, you're going to turn that into a series? What can we look forward to coming up the pike?
Yeah, the new book could be turned into a series. It's tentatively titled The Divine Devils, is what it's called. And so, like I said, the main character is Hunter Divine. So he has this little group of people that work contract to help other people out of jams or to protect people in situations. But I foresee it as a series. I think it's got some good potential. And then there could be another Jarvis, and then I have another idea of about a cop series, a cop book as well that I might, and which could be a series or a standalone. We'll see. Unfortunately, there's only so much time, so I'm one of those that kind of has to write one at a time. Some people I hear they're writing 2 or 3 different books at once. That's too difficult for me, so I kind of have to finish one project. I can at least get the first draft of one project and then maybe start the next project and go back and edit later, but I can't usually write.
It is what it is. Some people can bounce between books. I'm like you. I have to work hard on the one I've got and get it finished before I can turn my attention to another one. Now, I might come up with an idea, might jot it down even, may even write a little synopsis of it. But if I get too far into the story, then I might not get back to the one I'm working on. So that can be a very bad thing.
Yeah, if I could multitask and type on 2 machines at one time, I could probably type them out maybe. But yeah, that's one at a time. But yes, those are all things in the works, and I was kind of hoping this book would be ready for the end of the year, but I'm not sure I'm going to get there with some other things coming up right now. My wife may be changing jobs, so here soon, so we may be in the process of moving, not quite as far as you did, but possibly to the other side of town, where it'll be a little closer, but we'll see. We'll see. That's still kind of in the works. So all those things kind of take, and then our daughter will be going back to school in the fall, back to college at University of Wyoming, and getting set up now in an apartment. So we have all that to take care of as well. Getting her moved up there right around Labor Day week.
As they say, life intervenes.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of author events scheduled too. Like I said, I've got going to GeoCom, which is in Georgetown, Colorado, here in a couple of weeks, and then I've got the library. Comic-Con in Colorado Springs was a 3-day event, and they say it was over 17,000 people that came to that last year, so that's a lot of eyes. I'm looking forward to that. I will be exhausted when that one is done, but it'll be fun. And then the holiday craft fairs begin. So in October. So
well, man, well, I wish you nothing but good luck, best wishes, and tell us where we can find you online. Give us your website information, your social media sites, so we can send our followers over there.
Sure. The website is R.Weir.net. So I go by R.Weir, my books. It's just R.Weir, W-E-I-R. So it's rweir.net is the website. I'm on Amazon. All my books are pretty much exclusively on Amazon, except the very first one. The very first one, which is a short story, is free. Anyone can download it at any time. It's permanently free. People who sign up for my newsletter through my website, I will give them the first novel, Tracking a Shadow, the first full-length Tracking a Shadow, for free as well as an ebook to taste. So everyone can get a taste of what the writing's like. And I'm on Facebook, Twitter. Facebook could be under Randy Weir. I think it's Randy Weir 524. I think is what it is. It's more. I guess there's 524 more Randy Weirs in the world. Hard to believe. Twitter is just R.Weir 720, and those are the social media sites that I'm on most of the time. But anyone can always send me a friend request. I'm always open to talk. People pick my brain. I'm always happy to spend a few minutes chatting with anyone who's interested in writing or other writers as well.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. I'm so glad to know you, Randy. You're a fabulous writer and a good friend. And I'm really tickled about the new book and looking forward to what you got coming, out of the oven here in the next little while. So I wish you a lot of luck with all the events and things you have coming up. Please stay in touch with me, and I'll look forward to having you back on the show at a future date.
Okay, sounds good. And try to stay cool and get back to that book.
I'm working on it.
You'll get back to it.
I will, I promise.
Yeah. Okay.
Today's episode is brought to you by A Private Practice by E.J. Linden. And the description is, someone is murdering men around the city of Pittsburgh. The victims have one thing in common. They've all been identified as perpetrators of domestic violence. Detectives Susan Wyckoff and Frank Dillard are on the case. Their only clue? The letter carved into the bloodied palms of each of the victims. A Private Practice by E.J. Linden is available for Kindle on Amazon. This episode is brought to you by E.J. Linden, the author of A Private Practice. And the product description reads, someone is murdering men around the city of Pittsburgh. The victims have one thing in common. They've all been identified as perpetrators of domestic violence. Detectives Susan Wyckoff and Frank Dillard are on the case. Their only clue? The letter carved into the bloodied palms of each of the victims. E.J. Linden is a writer of mystery and suspense, words that also define the author. A Private Practice is E.J.'s debut novel featuring Detective Susan Wyckoff. E.J. lives to write. When not writing, E.J. enjoys pizza and beer with friends, watching pro football, and long walks in the park. Okay, that last part isn't quite true. Watch for more to come from E.J. Linden. Available for Kindle on Amazon.
Infinity Author Services for your author services needs. We create professionally designed book covers as well as provide editing, promotions, update your social media accounts, and WordPress site. Let Infinity Author Services increase the exposure of your novels with our exciting promo packages. You can find out more at infinityauthors.com. Infinity Author Services for the indie author in you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Writer Groupie. For booking information, show notes, and more, visit writergroupie.net.